G'day and welcome to ReDriven. Now, if a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon and an old school Land Rover Defender had a baby, chances are this would be the result, a Suzuki Jimny Sierra. But there are actually rumours that the G-Wagon was actually having an affair with the Jeep Wrangler at the time, so this would still make sense. Now, the Jimny Sierra has a large and loyal fan base, and there's not much else on the market that offers what this thing can provide, but does that mean it's actually any good? Like, are these any good? Are they worthy of the hype? What goes wrong with them? Like, are they reliable? What do they cost to own and operate? Can you live with one every day? And most importantly, should you buy one? Let's find out. Now, before we get deep into the Suzuki Jimny Sierra, can you please do us a favour and hit those like, subscribe and bell icon buttons, and after the video, go check us out on the socials. While this is a Suzuki Jimny Sierra, the owner has actually informed me that this car's name is Janice. So welcome to a ReDriven review of the Suzuki Jimny Sierra featuring Janice. While Janice is the test car for this particular video, in this video we're going to be focusing on the third generation Suzuki Jimny Sierras from Australia. But look, if you're not from Australia, don't freak out, because everything we're going to be going over should relate to Suzuki Jimny Sierras in your local market. Actually, on that, because we're Australian, we abbreviate everything. So this is no longer a Suzuki Jimny Sierra. I'm just going to call it a Jimny. We know it's a Jimny Sierra, but it's just going to be called the Jimny, or Janice. The third generation Jimny was launched way back in 1998 and lasted 20 years, being wrapped up with the launch of the incredibly popular 4th gen Jimny from 2019. Here in Australia, we received the Jimny as a 3-door hard-top SUV with either a manual or automatic transmission with a 1.3 litre 4-cylinder engine. However, a soft top was available in other markets, as well as a 660cc 3-cylinder engine and a Renault-built diesel power plant. The Jimny received several updates during its life cycle, most notably in 2005, 2013 and 2014, with various mechanical, design and aesthetic updates, interior trim improvements, and safety and tech levels were increased. Now look, we'd love to go over every single detail of every upgrade in this video, but that would just take way too long. But we have gathered all that information and we've put it in our very handy ReDriven cheat sheets. Our cheat sheets are invaluable as they provide a full breakdown of the car's model range, its common problems, what you need to look out for before handing over your hard-earned cash, how much of that cash you should be handing over, and so much more. Check it out at redriven.com or in the link below. Now look, if you are a Jimny expert or you own one of these things and you've noticed in this video that we've missed anything, please let us know in the comments section below. Look, obviously we're doing our best to cover everything, but we generally find it's the owners of these cars that are the true experts. So yeah, if we've missed something, let us know in the comments. So does it look good? Well look, obviously looks are subjective. Personally, I love the way this thing looks. Suzuki have absolutely nailed the design with the brand new Jimny, or relatively new Jimny, but even this one, I feel like it's got its own unique character. It is so small, but it's so chunky. And for me, this is something I love about an off-roader being, boxy. Also, these things look fantastic with a few aftermarket, off-roading accessories bolted to them. It kind of makes them look even more rugged. But there are a few things you need to watch out for. Firstly, because many owners love to take these things deep off-road, go over the entire body and look for any signs of abuse, especially underneath. Make sure you get underneath there and look for any signs of like gouges or serious abuse, and even worse, dodgy repair work, or any repair work that looks like it's trying to cover up other issues. As far as the actual bodywork goes, look, with how old these are getting and what they can do, a few little scuffs like Janice has here on her front bar, that's to be expected. But there's a massive difference between a few little scuffs and actual abuse. Just go over the whole car, make sure the paint matches both in color and texture between panels, make sure the panel gaps are all pretty accurate. In saying that, it is a Suzuki, it's not a Rolls Royce, so even from new, the panel gaps aren't like luxury car accurate. But yeah, just go over the whole thing, make sure it's nice and tidy. But the big thing to watch out for is the dreaded R word, rust, especially if it's seen any serious off-road time. The big problem is that Suzuki weren't all that great at rust prevention when these things were being made, and if it's seen any off-roading again, if there's mud and crap stuck up underneath it and it hasn't been cleaned off properly, that mud can trap the moisture and that just causes rust. So where do you need to check for rust? Just there. But seriously, specifically, where do you need to check? Make sure you check the suspension carriers, the various factory welding points on the chassis and on the axles as well. Check the boot floor and below the rear seats. Check inside the wheel arches. Try to get in behind the plastic body cladding and check behind the front driving lamps. Actually, if you are genuinely in the market for one of these things, make sure you check out our Ultimate 4x4 Buyer's Guide video before you buy one. It could save you thousands of dollars. The link is just up there. So, how's the interior? Well, It's simple but effective. Like, it is aging in terms of design, but you know, it does the job. The seating position is spot on. Like, there's not a lot of adjustment to it, but it just feels right. It's really, really nice. Although, there is that. I don't know if you can hear that. Squeaky McGee there. As far as other ergonomics go, look, everything's really, because it's so small, everything's really easy to touch. Although, there's not a lot of gap between your body and the door, like the door's like right here. And the problem with that is that, well, for me anyway, my knee smashes straight up against this hard plastic where the window switches are. So on a drive, it basically pushes the seam of your jeans into the side of your knee, and that becomes pretty uncomfortable pretty quickly. I have a sore knee because of this car. As far as wear and tear goes, look, you know, this thing is many years old, it has many thousands of kilometres on it, and it's a, you know, rugged little Jeep, but it's actually wearing pretty well. Like, some of the hard plastics have got a few scratches here and there, and there's a few things that move about a bit, but it's kind of to be expected. If you're expecting like a luxury Audi interior in here, you're looking at the wrong car. I should mention the amount of wear and tear is obviously going to vary depending on which car you're looking at and how many kilometres it's done and where it's done those kilometres, but overall, pretty good. There's no squidge. Ignore and forget squidge. Everything's bloody hard, even the steering wheel, like, it's wearing and it's looking a little bit gross. Buttons all feel pretty good. It's a rugged little truck. It feels like a rugged little truck. Now, I should note, actually getting in and out of the back seat is really easy because just with one lever, the opening is huge. In the back seat, now I'm this many talls and this is in my driving position, and to be expected, it's bloody cramped back here. This is very, very tight. Although, because the windows are quite large, it does feel weirdly spacious and there's heaps of headroom. So my upper body feels, you know, lovely. Just my legs, I can't feel my legs anymore. What do feet feel like? I don't know. As far as wear and tear goes, like the front, it's pretty good. This thing gets a bit of a workout. Look, there are some scratches on the hard plastics and the seats are wearing pretty well, but again, it's wearing as you would expect for a car of this age and this many kilometres. So how's the tech? It's terrible. There's no Bluetooth connectivity and the stereo has only 2 speakers, both of which sound like they were invented before sound itself was invented. Look, if you want modern levels of infotainment technology like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto or really any kind of Bluetooth connectivity, you're going to have to get an aftermarket head unit, but that's super easy to do. Also, as far as driver aids go, there's no reversing camera and there's no parking sensors. But in a car this small, if you need parking sensors and a reversing camera, maybe you shouldn't have a license in the first place. So, is it practical? Well, look, considering you can possibly buy suitcases that are bigger than this entire car, it's not too bad back here. There are a couple of cubby holes, which is cool. Although, with the seats down, there is a kind of decent amount of space. Ow. Actually, a lot of people take the seats out completely, so it makes it like a little van, but with the seats down, it's palatial. It's lovely. Practicality in the second row is actually pretty good. You've got your own sort of bookshelf here. There's a couple of cup holders either side. And because I've been doing yoga, I can actually reach the cup holders down near my squashed feet. And practicality up front is pretty good. There are door pockets, but they're only for things that don't have a third dimension. There's a spot here which are pretty appropriate for a set of keys. Just goes there. This is really cool. Like, this car was designed before the smartphone, but that's a perfect spot for your phone right there. There's an ashtray if you're a smoker. Gross. There's another spot up here above the good sized glove box. There are 3 cup holders. There's another spot down here, which is pretty good for a phone. So it's pretty good for practicality for such a tiny little truck. It's good. So what goes wrong with these? Well, it's Japanese, so surely not a whole lot, but is that the case? Well, I'm not a mechanic, I'm not qualified to tell you, but Jim is.
Righto, now that you've fast forwarded all of Adam's bits to get to my bit, I can tell you what you really need to know. First of all, let's talk about the notorious Jimny death wobble. There's a lot of theories about how you fix this. People talk about the swivel housing bearings. Generally, it's actually not that. What we find is the lower control arms, the way the front diff is located on them, it's just the wrong angle. You can change the bushes in them and put some eccentric bushes on there, which changes the caster. It's a caster correction and it pretty much fixes it. The swivel housing bearings do wear, and if it's been used off-road, they're going to be worn. You might need to look at those, as do the locking hubs. Check them, make sure they're all working. Other than that, the drivetrain on these things is pretty good. However, we do see a few problems with engines. We see a few engine oil leaks around the back of the head and sump gasket. Typically though, nothing too major nor too expensive. Some of the electrics can be a bit problematic, especially if it's been used off-road and gone underwater. Have a good look around that. Have a good look at any aftermarket mods that have been fitted, make sure they've been fitted properly, and good quality gear. Can't emphasise enough the problems you have with shitty mods fitted by dickheads, so just make sure anything that's on the car has been fitted well. Overall, they're pretty easy to work on, and like anything you buy secondhand, just make sure it's got a good, solid service history.
So is it safe? Well, it has dual front airbags, ABS brakes, seat belts, and from 2014 electronic stability control. But look at it this way, the current brand new Jimny only has a 3-star NCAP safety rating, and that car is a whole lot safer than this one. So no, it's not that safe. So what's it like to drive? Well, it depends on where you're driving it and for how long. If you're deep off-road exploring the wilderness, it's bloody awesome. And even if you're kind of scooting around town doing some chores in like a built-up metropolitan area, it's really good. But if you're on a freeway or out on an open country road like this for any long period of time, it can get very tiring very quickly. But the good news is, if it rains, it gets mildly terrifying almost instantly. Okay, positives first. This thing, it's an experience to drive. Like every little trip becomes an adventure, and it's so nice to drive something that has like so much character and personality. The vision out is absolutely superb because the glass house is large. It's so easy to judge like a tight car parking spot or like any kind of tight off-road tracks. Look, I can't vouch enough for the phenomenal off-roading ability of these things. There are thousands of hours on YouTube of videos of these tackling almost insane and impossible levels of terrain, and they can go into places, because they're so small and light, they can go into places that would just leave bigger SUVs wondering what the hell happened. But it's important to know that the Jimny doesn't run in full drive mode all the time. Full drive has to be selected. It's just rear-wheel drive without it being selected. So if you're expecting one of these things to have the same levels of safety and security of like a constant all-wheel drive system, say like in a Subaru, yeah, don't. Also, because these things are so small, light, and the wheelbase is quite short, and there are basically no electronic driver aids except the ABS, if this thing gets sideways, say around a corner in the wet, you're gonna need like professional rally driver skills to get it back on the straight and narrow. Actually, while we're on the four-wheel drive system, if you're gonna buy one of these and you're test driving it, make sure the four-wheel drive system actually works, because there are some bastards out there that will sell this rather than fixing the four-wheel drive system. Okay, as far as negatives go, steering first. Look, out on these open roads or on the freeway, it's way too light and pretty vague, and it really inspires no confidence. The lightness does help when you're, negotiating a car park or some crazy off-road trail, but on roads like this, yeah, like you turn and wait, and then the car turns. The suspension is bloody firm, like kind of crashy firm. Look, around town, it kind of gives a Jimny this almost like little kind of puppy level of energy, and obviously the suspension's phenomenal off-road. But on-road, like on these country roads on the freeway, it just kind of jiggles about all the time. And again, because it's got that short wheelbase, it feels like it's kind of pitching and moving all the time, and it's fun for about 30 minutes, and then it just gets tiring and a bit annoying. Because it is so small and light and it's kind of so flat in every dimension, it's really susceptible to like any crosswinds, or even going past a truck. You can feel it getting buffeted and moved around all over the place. It is a bit of an experience, but not a fun experience. And also, because it has basically all of the aerodynamics of a box of tissues, there is a lot of wind noise. The mirrors are quite large, so there's, again, a sort of constant cacophony of wind noise all the time. Plus all the creaks and rattles and squeaks, they add to the character to this thing for about 15 minutes, and then you just get annoyed and over it. There's actually a little squeak down here that sounds like a cricket, so it would be like a Jimny cricket squeak. Then you've got the power plant and the drivetrain. Again, around town and off-road, awesome, great, especially with the automatic. The automatic off-road and around town, excellent. But out on these country roads, and especially on the freeway, it does run out of puff pretty quickly. Overtaking in this thing is probably best avoided unless the car that you're overtaking has come to a complete stop. And when you're on the freeway, you've got to rev the poor thing out so hard just to even get to freeway speeds. And what that does for fuel consumption, we'll get to in a sec. Finally, the biggest negative with these things are the reports of death wobbles, which normally happens higher in the speed limits, where the front of the car just starts wobbling sort of uncontrollably. Janus here actually does get a little bit of a wobble at around about 80 kilometres an hour. It's really accurate. It goes sort of between 78 and like 81 kilometres an hour. It's just like a little bit of a vibration there. Also, those death wobbles can get far worse if you fit a lift kit or some larger wheel and tyre packages. Look, yes, there are some negatives, but they're all things that this car wasn't designed to do in the first place, and it's not why people buy these cars in the first place. This thing was designed to be really fun around town and absolutely dominate the wilderness, and at those two things, it is absolutely brilliant. Pricing here in Australia kicks off from around about $8,000 for early model, high kilometre Jimnys, probably in pretty crap condition. And at the other end of the spectrum, the prices have gone pretty bonkers of late. For a recent low kilometre mint condition Jimny, probably covered in awesome aftermarket accessories, you can be looking at as much as $30,000. Something like Janus here, a 2008 model, a bit over 180,000 Ks in pretty good condition, anywhere from $13,000 to $20,000. And for pricing in other places around the globe, here's a graphic. Suzuki have a claimed fuel consumption figure of either 7.3 or 7.8 litres per 100 kilometres, depending on transmission. But the thing is, because these have to be revved out so hard to get anywhere, you're never going to see figures like that. On this test, we're seeing figures closer to 10. But the second you fit some all-terrains or some bar work or really any substantial off-roading accessories, that figure's just going to get worse. Also, as the Jimny only has a 40-litre fuel tank, if you're planning on any long road trips, you're going to be visiting petrol stations pretty regularly along the way. Suzuki offered a 3-year, 100,000 kilometre warranty on all Jimnys, and servicing is recommended at a very regular 6 months or every 10,000 Ks. Also, Jimnys have an excellent loyal fan base, and there are loads of owners groups out there as well, so if you want any support, advice, or even great deals on spare parts, it's pretty easy. So, should you buy one? Well, this is one of those head versus heart decisions. Look, on paper, it should be a no. The Jimny isn't all that practical, it's not very safe, it's bloody thirsty for what it is, it's immensely compromised when driving on any kind of open road, and it can suffer from a number of mechanical gremlins. So if you want an efficient, practical, safe, small car and have no real desire to go exploring the scenery, no, you should not buy one of these. But buying a Jimny is a bit like adopting a puppy. Yes, they'll misbehave, probably cost more than you're expecting and require constant attention, but the immense joy they bring is totally worth the financial headache. Look, as long as you know that you're buying into an experience and a relationship more than you're just buying a car, then 100% you should definitely buy a Jimny, because the only other car that can do what this thing can do is just a different Jimny. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and hey, what did you think of Janus? Let us know in the comments section below. And remember, can you do us a favor and hit those like, subscribe and bell icon buttons, and go and follow us on the socials. See you next time. What goes wrong with them? I'm totally blank. Oh no, okay. You know, these things, blah, 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 blah. Good, yeah? Go over the entire car and check for signs of dodgy, they went pear-shaped so quickly. But the big thing to look out, blah, 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 blah. There we go. The big problem is that Suzuki, Subaru, one of them, and servicing is recommended at every 6 months or 100,000 Ks. No, 10,000 Ks, dickhead. Here we go. Look, as long as you're aware, yeah. Look, as long as you go into one of these, as long as you know that you're buying into, yeah. Look, as long as that you know, me, come on. Look, but Jimnys have a, me. But Jimnys, yeah, here we go.